Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Kevin Nerd _82. Thanks for the suggestion, Kevin. You asked, why does a lieutenant general outrank a major general? Shouldn't a major be higher than a lieutenant? Yeah, by normal logic, that makes total sense. In most situations, major beats lieutenant. But apparently, when the military was handing out ranks, logic was taking a nap. So how did this backwards ranking even happen? Why is a lieutenant general, who literally has lieutenant in the name, someone below a major, suddenly the boss? Grab your imaginary medals and stay tuned as we march through the confusing history of military titles, right here on Explaining Everything. All right, let's go back in time, way before camouflage and tactical sunglasses, to the Middle Ages, when armies were run by kings, nobles, and a guy named Jeff, who probably didn't shower much. Back then, the person in charge of the entire army was called the Captain General, basically the king's right-hand war boss. The word captain comes from kaput, meaning head. So Captain General literally meant head general. Now, because even the medieval HR department needed middle management, the Captain General had an assistant, the Lieutenant General. Lieutenant comes from French, lieu, place, plus tenant, holding. So a lieutenant was literally someone who holds the place of the boss. In other words, the Lieutenant General was the deputy to the Captain General, the stand-in when the main guy wasn't around. And then, under the Lieutenant General, there was the Sergeant Major General, basically the top organizer, responsible for troop formations, logistics, and making sure the soldiers didn't stab themselves during training. So the original order went like this: Captain General, the boss; Lieutenant General, the second in command; Sergeant Major General, the operations manager. Makes sense so far, right? Captain, then Lieutenant, then Sergeant Major. But hold on. Things are about to get bureaucratically stupid. Fast forward a bit to the 17th century, when armies got bigger, wars got bloodier, and apparently everyone decided that military titles were just too long. To make things more efficient and probably sound cooler, they started dropping words from titles. Captain General became just General because, no one wanted to write Captain on every report. Lieutenant General stayed as is, since it already sounded fancy enough. But here's where the chaos began. The Sergeant Major General title got shortened to simply Major General. They lopped off the sergeant part, and suddenly that guy sounded like he outranked a lieutenant general. But he didn't. He just got a name promotion, not an actual promotion. It's like if your company rebranded assistant manager as manager, but still made them report to the vice manager. So yeah, thanks to a bit of lazy medieval editing, a lieutenant general outranks a major general, because the major in that title used to be part of Sergeant Major General. The word sergeant just fell off over time, like a neglected rank patch. Now, you might be thinking, surely someone fixed this? Unfortunately, no one. The British military just rolled with it, and because their system influenced armies across the world, including the US, This weird naming hierarchy spread everywhere like a bad group chat meme. And it's not just generals. Military rank names are a linguistic mess in general. For instance, Brigadier General is below Major General. Field Marshal outranks everyone, but sounds like a guy who sells vegetables. And don't even get started on Commodore. Is that a naval title or a British 80s synth pop band? The point is, the ranking structure made sense once upon a time, back when Sergeant Major General was still a thing. But after centuries of abbreviation, translation, and bureaucratic laziness, the names stopped matching the power levels. Basically, the military invented the world's first confusing video game skill tree, and nobody patched it. You might ask, okay, but why not just rename the ranks to make sense again? Well, because tradition. The military loves tradition. If something's worked for 400 years, even if it's completely illogical, it's staying. Changing the titles now would mess with centuries of documentation, ceremonies, and uniforms. Imagine rewriting every military history book just because someone finally said, "Wait, this is dumb." Plus, deep down, everyone in the military knows the order. It's just the rest of us who are confused, trying to understand why a Major General isn't actually major enough. So instead of fixing it, they just kind of shrugged and said, "Yeah, that's just how it is," which is exactly how humans have solved problems since forever. So, to recap, the reason a lieutenant general outranks a major general is pure historical chaos. Originally, the captain general was in charge, the lieutenant general was second, and the sergeant major general was third. But when they shortened that last title to just Major General, they accidentally made it sound higher than it really was. The ranking itself never changed, only the names did. So next time you look at military ranks and think, "This makes no sense," just remember, it once did. 500 years ago, before someone got lazy with the delete key. If you learned something new today, or if you're still mildly annoyed by medieval job titles, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button while you're at it. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.